Good afternoon. My name is Specialist Clarke, and today I will cover 071-COM-1001, Identify Terrain Features on a Military Map. As you can see behind me, I have my tasks, conditions, and standards, my deliberate risk assessment worksheet, and my outline. The risk assessment for today is low. We're indoors in a classroom environment. So please watch out for tripping hazards, such as cords running from your computers, your desk, your chairs, or anything that you place on the floor. Also, if you see a chair out of place, please just push it back under a desk. Be mindful of your water source or any drinking canteen you may have on the desk, because we don't want it to spill and damage our computers. And also, I don't want it to damage the maps that I have loaned you guys, because I have to turn that back in to supply at the end of this class. We have 2 exit doors. If you want to use a latrine, please use the door closest to your seat and do so quietly. The latrine doors are right outside both these doors. In case of a fire, we're going to head through the door closer to your seat and go downstairs. Then you're going to go out through the door on your right at the bottom of the stairs. We will all rally up in the parking lot for accountability. If you get tired or feel sleepy, please stand up and stand in the back of the class, and do so quietly. I'll go over my task conditions and standards. For my task today, the task will be how to identify major and minor terrain features on a military map. For my conditions, you're a member of a squad or a team in a field environment and have been directed to identify terrain features on a military map. You have been given a 1 to 50,000 scale military map, and also FM 3-25, pages 10 through 10 to 10 to 19, which shows you how to identify terrain features on a military map. Moving on to our standards. Identify the 5 major and 3 minor and 2 supplementary terrain features on a military map. Also, at the end, we'll be doing assessment, and you'll be a go if you have a pass rate of 90%. So I'll demonstrate to you how to find all 10 of these terrain features, split it up into 3 categories: minor, major, and supplementary. Starting off with a hill. I'll also give you a definition for each of these terrain features. So, all terrain features are derived from a complex landmass known as mountain or ridgeline. The term ridgeline is not interchangeable with the term ridge, and we'll learn more about ridge further on in this class. A ridgeline is a line of high ground, usually with changes in elevation along its top or low ground on all sides, from which a total of 10 natural or man-made terrain features are classified. So, if you look at your FM pages, you will see everything I'll be seeing up here. You can see it right there on your desk. We have images of these terrain features and how it should look on your map. As for a hill is a high ground area that slopes downwards on all sides. On the map, a hill is represented by contour lines, with the smallest closed circle being the top. So as you can see, the top of the hill is the smallest closed circle. And these are what we call contour lines. And for a hill, the closer the contour lines are together, the steeper the hill. So we will look at the example here, and then I will look on the map and try to find the hill. Then we move over to a saddle. A saddle is a dip or low point between 2 high points. If you're in a saddle, there is high ground on 2 opposite sides and low ground on the other 2 sides. Most times, the saddle has an hourglass figure. And 2 minutes ago, we spoke about the hilltop. So you can see where the high grounds are on the two opposite sides when you look at the saddle. And if you look on the other two sides, we can see the low ground. But a saddle is not always between two hills. And you do the same. You move over to your map, and you go through, and you try to find the contour lines, and try to find where it's shaped like an hourglass. Now we move on to a valley. A valley is a stretched out groove in the land, usually formed by streams or rivers. While standing in the valley, three sides will be high ground and one side will be low ground. So as you can see here, this is a valley. The other side, so on the low ground, one side is low and three sides is high ground. On the map, the contour line will have a V or a U shape, with the U shape or V shape pointing upstream. So I look at my diagram and I see just that. So when I come back to my map and I search for my valley. Moving on to our fourth major terrain feature. This is called a ridge. Earlier we spoke about ridgeline, and I told you guys that a ridgeline and a ridge are two different things. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to find a ridge on your military map. A ridge is a sloping line of high ground. When standing in the ridge, you would have three sides of low ground and one side of high ground, which is the complete opposite of what we looked at before, which is a valley. The contour line forming a ridge usually have a U or V shape, and the closed end of the contour line point away from the low ground. So if you remember with the valley, it also has a U and V shape. But remember, ridge and valley are opposites. So then again, we will come back here and we will try to find the ridge. Now we go on to our last major terrain feature, which is called depression. Depression is a sinkhole or low point in the ground. It is surrounded by high ground in all directions. Depressions are represented by close contour lines with tick marks pointing to the low ground. So if we take a look at the image we have in front of us, this is a depression. In real life, it looks like a big pool without water, like a big drained pool. And we can see tick marks that is pointing inside the depression, like pointing at each other. And then we do the same thing. We come to the military map and we try to find the depression on the military map. So that was our last major terrain feature. Now we move on to our minor terrain features. Our minor terrain features consist of draw, a spur, and cliffs. The first one we look at today is a draw. A draw, if you look at your map or at your FM you have in front of you, you will see a definition of draw, and you will see actually the pictures of a draw. A draw is a stream course that's less developed than a valley. If you're standing in a draw, there will be high ground on three directions and low ground in one direction. So it sounds similar to when we looked at a valley, but it's less developed than a valley. A draw is represented on a military map with also a U or V-shaped contour lines pointing towards the high ground. So again, we come to a map and we see these lines on our map and we try to match it with the lines in our diagram. Now, we move on to a spur. A spur is a short, continuous sloping line of higher ground. The ground will slope down in 3 directions and up in 1. A spur is represented by also U or V-shaped contour lines pointed away from the high ground. So here we have a diagram of the spur. We have how it looks on the military map, and we have how it looks in real life. So if you look, we can see the U shapes and the V shapes. And the direction that it's pointing in, that means it's pointing away from the high ground. And then we move on to our cliff, which is our third and final minor terrain feature. A cliff is usually a vertical or almost vertical feature. This feature is represented by contour lines close together or sometimes even touching each other with tick marks pointing outwards. So earlier when I told you about the hill and their contour lines, I said the closer the lines are together, the steeper the hill. But when those lines touch or they're very vertical or almost vertical, that's when it becomes a cliff. A cliff is like a drastic cut drop down. It's not like a hill that's gradually going down. So that's the difference between the hill and the cliff. And also, it has small tick lines pointing outwards. So now we will step into our 2 supplementary terrain features. These 2 supplementary terrain features are man-made. It's cut and a fill. Very similar terrain features. The first one we'll be looking at is a cut. A cut is a man-made feature resulting from cutting through raised ground. These cuts are usually showed on a map when they are at least 10 feet high. Cuts are represented by contour lines with tick marks. So on this map, it's kind of hard to find a cut. And if there is a cut, maybe it won't be shown because it's not higher than 10 feet. A cut has to be 10 feet or higher for it to be shown on a military map. But we have an example right here in front of us. And the fill. We move on to the second and the final supplementary terrain feature. A fill is also a man-made feature, result from filling a low area, usually to form a bed for a road or a railroad track. Fills are shown on a map when they're at least 10 feet high. Fills are represented by contour lines with tick marks also, just like a cut, but these will be pointed to a lower ground. So as we can see here, this is a fill, and you can see this is a man-made railroad. So what a fill signifies on a map is something that is cut out by a man or man-made on the military map. So most times we see a fill, we see a road, or we even see a railroad. Okay, at this time, I give the soldiers some time to practice with trying to identify military terrain features on a military map. I'll give them 10 minutes. Okay, at this time, I give all soldiers an assessment. With this assessment, you have to identify military features on the map given to you. Each pair has different type of maps, different location, and you must have a 90% success rate to be a go on this course. You guys have a total of 20 minutes to complete this assessment. Okay, pencils down. I'll walk around and collect all your assessment, and I'll grade them. Okay, everyone was a go for this assessment. Pass your grade up to my leadership. There's no reason to retrain. Everyone did a very good job on their assessment, and these grades will be passed up by chain of command. Can everyone please send all their equipment to the end of their desk? I'll walk through and collect all maps and everything that I loan you guys. As in for the FM, you guys can keep those to study more in depth about land navigation, because it can be used in your career in the future. At this time, I'll be conducting an AAR. May I have some sustains, please? May I have some improvements? Okay, and again, I would like to say again my risk assessment. Throughout this class, my risk assessment remained low. Everyone did a good job at watching out for trip hazards and staying quiet while going through the latrines. We didn't have to worry about any other safety mishap happening in this class. Okay, I'll conduct my final inspection and make sure I have all the equipment that I took from my supply. And at this time, I'll be closing out my training site.